Welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at colonization management as well as first contact / diplomacy within Stellaris. Yes, there is quite a lot of stuff to go through, and if you haven't already seen the previous videos going over the basics, but also things like early exploration and the early game in general, I highly would recommend for you to go and check that out. In the meantime, though, for those of you who have seen this video already, thank you so much for joining us once again. And today, we're going to be taking a look at colonization management and, of course, diplomacy, as we've already mentioned. Now, last time we left off at the colonization of our first colony. It's going underway quite nicely. And as you can see, this planet has a modifier that will give us additional minerals. This means that this world will be great for industrial development. Not so much for food, which is a different problem altogether. In the early game, it's usually a very good idea to have a mixture of food as well as industrial planets, and you can fill those up with generator districts and mining districts as you go along, and we'll go a little bit deeper into those as we go through in this video on how they work and what their mechanics are like. In the meantime, though, it looks like that we have encountered our first alien species. It's currently 8 years into the game, and as you can see, if we go into this system, this beautiful neutron star over here, we will see this ship over here, and as we zoom towards it, we will see that it is in fact an alien species. This is an alien ship, and that basically means that we can do something with this. Now, as you can also see, we can see on the map that we have this icon, a first contact with floaters. Now we can click on this and we will end up on this screen. And using this particular item over here, we can do something called assigning a Envoy. Now, the Envoy itself is actually kind of useful, and this will start the first contact process, and essentially we will have to go through a couple of events in order to get this stuff started. In addition to that, you can also go to your situation log and essentially go here and then go and take a look at the species in question and go for a first contact approach there. Still, though, in the meantime, we are heavily trying to survey our space, and we're very interested in this neutron system in general, because as you can see at the bottom of the screen here, this particular system has a sublight speed reduction of 50%. That means that any ship going through the system will have a reduced speed of air going through it of about 50%, which means that this is an excellent defensive area, which is something that we would like to get control of. Because of that, we've already gotten a construction ship ready, and they will be on its way in order to survey this, to claim the system once it has been surveyed. And we get a bunch of new technologies, and anything involving powered exoskeletons is always a good idea, because it will allow us access to robots, which is something that we desperately want. Now, at this point, we don't want to expand to any more systems for the moment, because this particular construction ship needs to get to the system to claim it, and it's going to be very important. In the meantime, though, we are floating around still. We want to survey as many systems as we can, trying to get a better idea of where we are in the galaxy and what is nearby our space. And essentially, we can just go through all of this and shift right-click onto stars and try to get through the galaxy at large and see what is going on there. Still, though, we can also send our second construction ship into this general direction and help out with the setup of this particular system. We can also immediately start building an outpost here. There's a nice continental world nearby, actually, and that will be very nice for us, considering we are, in fact, a continental species. And we need to take a deeper look here to see if anybody has claimed this. There is no station over here, which means that we can claim this earlier on. This also means that we should probably send our survey ship over there in order to get access to it. Now, if we go into this system over here, we can see that this system has already been claimed. There is a station inside of the system, most likely from the alien species that we just encountered. That is an interesting thing. Normally you would find them a little bit closer, but it also means that they are very likely to want to expand into this particular area, which means that we need to curtail that as soon as possible, because we want a escape route from our system. But in the meantime, though, we have ourselves a new colony up and running, which is pretty darn exciting. Now, if we click on a cool name in the Alpha Centauri system, as I already mentioned, we have a bonus to high quality minerals, which is great because it gives us additional mineral districts and not that many agricultural districts. This means that we can get a lot of minerals from this, and as well as industry. So we should first build a industrial district because we want to turn this into a industrial world. We can also go into the colony designation over here and essentially say, okay, so we want to set the designation for this world. We would like to either turn this into an industrial world or a forge world or a factory world. And that basically gives us additional bonuses to either of the alloy production or the consumer good production or just a generalized industrial world bonus. So we're actually going to go with a industrial world here, which basically means that our industrial districts, the ones that we just started building, are actually going to be built faster. You probably want to remove the one that you just set up just to make sure that it resets properly. And on top of that, our pops will have less upkeep there, which is really, really nice. And we want to have that up and running as fast as possible. We also found ourselves another alien species. How very, very curious. So the Bujums in the Sirius system, we're just going to go ahead and attach another envoy on that and basically say, okay, we're going to go ahead and find stuff out. And we just have another first contact event going. So apparently we know a little bit more about this species. They are in fact unknown to us, but that is fine for now. Now we've claimed this system just in time, very good as well, as we now have vision on the on this border world over here, and then we can see that they have already taken this system, and there's an alpine world here that they've already colonized, which means their home world cannot be far away, but it also means that we can go ahead and move our other ship over here in to get ready to colonize this system as well. And whilst we're doing that, we're actually going to get a couple of consumer goods by using the galactic market over here and build ourselves a additional colony ship. Why do we do this? Well, so that we can get this colony up and running as soon as possible. It's going to take a little time for us to get into a position where we can properly colonize this space, but it basically means that we will have a colony sitting next to this planet that we know nothing about at this moment, except that it's a size 19, to get it ready and up and running, because we need more worlds. 2 worlds is definitely not enough, not for a standard playthrough anyway. The minimum of running a planetary empire is 3. In my personal opinion, you should always have a minimum of 3 places. Now, in the meantime, we've got ourselves an election. We are, in fact, a democracy, as you can see right here, and that means that we can vote on an election. You can ignore this for now, because we will not have the resources to actually properly vote on somebody. But if you do want to vote on somebody, if you want to get certain bonuses or certain bonuses from certain leaders, or you want to retain certain leaders, then you can go in here and click on the leader that you want and then support them. But currently, we do not have the influence to actually do that properly. And I highly recommend not doing that in the early game. Still, though, our science ships are still moving all about. We have just discovered ourselves a new system called the Hauer system. We can ignore that for the moment. And actually what we're going to go do is we're going to go to this system and click on this little button over here. And that will basically restrict this system. Your ships will not be entering the system and will bypass it at any cost. And basically they will never go in there, and no ships will accidentally go into that place and die because of it. In the meantime, though, it looks like are they trying to build a construction ship over here? No, this is just a bunch of science ships surveying this place. It looks like that we have a slight advantage here because we can build ourselves a starbase, which is great. We got it right before they did. It's very much a land rush situation. And that basically allows us to get this place up and running. And as you can see over here in our station, our colony ship is up and running soon as well, which will give us a little bit of flexibility later down the line. But yeah, we're going to go for another of these traditions. We talked about that in the previous episode. Basically, our leaders will grow grow and become better a little bit faster than before, which is always nice. And as of course, we're always going to continue surveying throughout the galaxy as much as possible. You're going to be clicking quite a lot on these, trying to figure out where stuff is and how to and basically moving stuff through the galaxy and that sort of thing. So that's pretty important. Anyway, we got ourselves a new ruler, and the ruler has a mandate, and because we fulfilled that mandate, we get additional unity. And essentially what happened there is we basically said, okay, our ruler has a mandate, and basically they want to do certain things. And essentially we can find that in the situation log under Urbanizer, and in this particular case, we need to build 2 additional city districts in order to get that up and running. However, leaders can move back and forth, so it's very important that you keep an eye on that. So if a leader becomes a ruler, then you will need to replace that leader in their respective category. So we got a couple of extra things here. I really like automated exploration protocols because it completely automates that process. So we are going to do that. And we are also going to get robotic workers because robotic workers are great. And once we have that technology, we will go a little bit deeper into that one. We've got a little bit more progress on the Bojums, which is nice. It looks like this part of the galaxy is pretty heavily populated, which is pretty darn decent. This guy, however, should probably try to survey over here in case we can claim this system. So that is at least something. And our construction ship is currently building a station here. Oh, is it a race? It looks like it is going to be a race. I think we got it before they did, though, so that's at least good. But in the meantime, though, it's not a very good agricultural planet. Not at all. We don't get a very good bonuses here. Some generator districts, some mining, but not a lot of good options for food, which is an issue. This feels then more like a generalist world with a bunch of options for mining as well. Consider it a secondary world, but it's still part of our core. In addition to that, we've got all these awesome worlds nearby that we can terraform later on in the game, but we will get to that once we get to that. Once again, we want to keep an eye on our science ships, trying to survey as much as we can and essentially survey all along the galaxy. Our colony ship is now up and running, which is great. We're going to send it over towards Sirius. So we're going to set it up into orbit. And we have just managed to conquer the system, which is even better for us, which means that we can reselect the colony ship and right-click on Sirius, colonize the planet, and just give it another cool name and be done with that. And basically, this ship will now automatically colonize it. It's, like I said, it's usually a good idea to have a colony ship ready to go once you found a planet so that you can send it straight there so you don't need to wait for the ship to be built and it's going to take yet another year of in-game time. It's a big hassle, so we want to make sure that is all going well. Very soon we'll be able to talk about industry. That's very, very good. In limbo, we can ignore that for now. So, where are we at right now? So we've got 3 planets that will soon be under our control. We have two first contact events currently running. It looks like this system is currently under control as well. Actually, yeah, it's being built right here as an alien space station. So it looks like we have 2 potential neighbors here, which is potentially a problem in the long run. Why is that a problem? Well, one of them could be hostile. So before first contact is even done, we're going to go into this system over here and upgrade the starport. That will make it stronger and will become a decent defensive perimeter. Now, why do I build it here and not inside the system where this colony world is? Well, I will upgrade that later on, but right now I want to make sure that we've got a good defensive perimeter on our choke system, which is basically the single point of entry into our core, and start fortifying this in case these guys are not all that nice. So we want to make sure that we have an eye on that and not do too many things there. So, first contact. Apparently the floaters are very naive, which is nice, and they are receptive to us, which is great, that means that we have potentially a good ally in the near future. And in the meantime, though, what we're going to be doing is we are just continuously expanding over here. Now, we have a bunch of influence coming in very soon, and this is something that we need to keep an eye on. Give me a second. And we're going to send our I don't know whether or not the system has already been taken. So I'm going to keep my construction ship in place here for now. But as you can see, it's 10 years into the game, and now a faction has been founded. Now, factions are part of the internal systems of our empire. If we go into our outliner on the right, and we go all the way down to the bottom, there is the factions bottom. In order to get this particular icon, by the way, what we do is we go into the outliner options and we actually click the show colony designation icon, especially for planets. It is very useful. We can basically do it like this. It's very useful to have. Anyway, factions, they essentially are a reflection of your population. Now, if everybody in a faction agrees with what you are doing, and these little dots will be green, and basically we can see their issues over here, and if you are complying with those issues, they will be very happy and will give you a bonus in influence, which will immediately reflect on our influence over on this end, which is great. It will instantly grow now to 5 because we get a 2.25 bonus. This also means that we can expand a little bit more efficiently. So early on, having a faction that is in really good standing with you, it basically means that you can grow a lot faster in the early game and make use of a lot more of the systems more effectively anyway. And in the long run, it's also a bit of a waiting game, trying to get enough of all the resources, etc. But with these sort of bonuses, you can finagle that a little bit and try to get another bonus out of it. We have another problem, though. It looks like this system has been blocked as well. We are going to, once again, restrict this. But it does mean that this part of the galaxy is almost completely blocked off to us, which is a bit of a problem. Basically, that means that we do not have a way of expanding in this general direction. But it also means that any enemies that are sitting behind this area will have a difficult time trying to get through here. So that's really good for us in the long run. In the meantime, though, we need to keep an eye on the Kondara system, whether or not they've already claimed it. It does, once again, look like it, which is unfortunate for us. However, the full Badan system is not, which means that we are going to send our construction ship over here, because any territory that the enemy does not have is territory that we do. So always keep that in mind when expanding. In the meantime, in this particular case, we will need to get some more food because we're very limited on that. So let's get some more food technology here and make sure that everything is up and running in Earth just nicely. So at this stage, it's time to take a look at the basics of the economy and especially the management of our colonies. So, all of the areas on our planet are defined by a planet size. In this particular case, it's size 18. This means that we also have a planet capacity of 52. And capacity in this particular case is based around the size of the planet as well as the housing amount on the planet. And basically it translates to the higher your planetary capacity is, the faster your pops will grow. It's not particularly clear in the game, but it's just something that you will need to keep in mind whilst doing your management side. So at the moment, this particular world, our home world, is supposed to be our research world. This is where we're going to get all of our science from. But we currently don't have any building slots open, which is an issue. So how do we get around this? Well, what we can do is we can build another city district, which is exactly what we're going to be doing. So once that city district is done, we will get ourselves another building slot. In addition, what we could have done as well is to build an agricultural district, because we are about to have new workers available by seeing this particular icon over here. You never want to have this particular item sitting at +1 because it means that you have unemployed pops, which will then be, sorry, it's this one. Basically, we'll have unemployed pops. We want to avoid that at all times. But you also don't want to have more jobs available than you have buildings or districts. You always want to try to keep this number at 0 wherever possible. There are a couple of exceptions here and there, but that's more of advanced gameplay. We don't need to go too deeply into that at this stage, but as long as you have this number at 0, you are generally looking pretty good. So we can also take a look at features. So basically we can clear these particular blockers. Essentially, these are things on our planet that disallow us from building more stuff. And considering we have a city district in the queue right now, we can queue these two up as well in order to clear them and essentially get more space on our planet to build things, because right now these are being blocked. For instance, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, it's not allowing us to build more agricultural districts. Let's put it that way. So yeah, we can also go a little bit deeper into the population tab. We can see which jobs are being worked, and essentially we can prioritize jobs and see which ones we want to have. In this particular case, we want to have as many researchers as possible. So by clicking the researchers icon over here, this little flag will come up, and that means that every single research job would always be filled. Now, there are several categories here. We got the rulers, we got the specialists, and we have the workers. Workers are your basic population. They will work the basic jobs, such as clerks, farmers, miners, technicians, that sort of thing. But as soon as a specialist job will become available, somebody from the workers will immediately jump into that position. So what that basically means is that you will have a gap of people, jobs open in the basic resources. And the basic resources are the cornerstones of your economy. So you want to try to avoid that as much as possible. So essentially, as soon as you have a job available and a pop will grow, you will see a new pop appearing over here. And then later on, we can move them over to another position. You can min-max this a little bit by removing some people that you don't need at a certain point in time. We'll go over that shortly once that district is done, and then we can see a little bit more about that. We got ourselves another faction. We can go over towards this faction, and as you can see, right now we have some problems with this faction. We do not have a first contact, which is something that we're about to do, which is something that they will like, so we'll get a bonus out of that. And on top of that, they do not like that we don't have a proactive first contact protocol. In order to change this and to make them happy, we can go into the policy screen. We can go to first contact protocol and set that to proactive. Basically, what it means is that we will get more influence from first contacts, but in addition, we will make the faction happy. So as you can see, it's now 2 green with 1 red. And as soon as we've made first contact, we will have the ability of getting them in our playbook, basically, which is good. It's really nice to have that sort of thing, because as long as the factions all love us, then we're in a good place. Now, sometimes factions will clash. Certain population pops in your empire, they are being represented here upstairs, will basically try to go into different positions. So for instance, at some point we're going to have xenophobic pops in our empire, and they will start their own faction, and they will clash with the xenophile pops. And essentially then you'll need to start prioritizing and trying to manage that faction. But it's a little bit more advanced, and we will go into detail about that in a later video. But a cool name is currently up and running. As you can see, we currently have 2 jobs available, which is fine for us. And on top of that, we can also do some decisions here in order to make people a little bit happier, but it's not something that we need at this point. We can go to the population tab and see that our population is growing at 5.14 a month, which basically means that in about 20 months, we will have a fresh pop. And essentially, that's where it is at. First contact so far is not going too swell, but that's fine. And we've got ourselves another system, which is good as well. Our station is now online. We're not going to go and upgrade that with these modules for now, because we don't know if we have any enemies nearby. But we are also going to go into Sirius and upgrade this particular starport. Now, the amount of starports that we can have is maxed out by this little indicator over here. Essentially, we can have currently a maximum of 3 starports. If we go over that, we will start running into additional costs, and you kind of want to avoid that as much as you can. The more space you have, the more stations you can build. There's technologies behind this, there's traditions behind this as well, and that is essentially it. We've made first contact with the floaters, the Avarian mandate. So here they are. They are a theocracy, an egalitarian, xenophile, spiritualist, theocratic oligarchy, which is interesting. We can say hi to them and make them like us. We can not say hi to them, and we can make sure that they don't like us at all. However, in general, you kind of want to go towards this particular side of things, make them as happy as possible, and essentially say, hey, we are over here, and now we want to know where you are. So I wasn't wrong. There is a capital over here. We now know what kind of space they have. But immediately what we can do, we can click on their capital, and we have 2 options here. we can start improving relations by once again sending out our envoy, but we can also start building a spy network. So we can send one of our other envoys over. But we can also do all sorts of things like form a non-aggression pact or establish an embassy, which is also extremely helpful because it will allow us to get better diplomacy in the future. A commercial pact is usually good as well. Essentially what can happen here is that we will get better value out of their trading networks. Right now, it doesn't really mean all that much so at the moment, but we will get a bunch of shared intel, which is nice, and we can form like a bunch of other things as well. For instance, we can form a research agreement with them, which is nice. It will cost a certain amount of influence per month, so do keep an eye on that you don't go overboard with that. But essentially, if we go in here, we can now see that we are cordial with them. We know that we are equivalent in technology as well as economy with them, and that's kind of nice to know. And we don't know a lot else about them, though, which is where the espionage comes in. Essentially, our spy is currently trying to figure out all of these details about basically information within their empire. What's their technology at? What is their military at? What's their economy at? Who are they friends with? Because right now, we do not know if they have any diplomatic agreements with somebody else. They currently have close borders to the other empire that we are researching, which is an interesting thing to know. It's a good thing that we are in the process of building up this starport, because those aliens are over here. And it looks like they have done some stuff with us. Interesting. Anyway, it's time to finish our tree here. Faith in science, which reduces the upkeep for researchers, which is nice, considering research is exactly what we need. And we will get a plus 10% research speed bonus. And we get something really special. We get an Ascension perk. An Ascension perk is a special bonus, a very powerful special bonus, actually, every single time when we finish one of our tradition trees. So what we can do here is we can select a bonus. Now we are going to go and not show unavailable because spoilers and all that stuff. And there's a wide range of categories here that we can pick. But in general, technological ascendancy is usually the best because it gives us even more research as well as a chance of getting a rarer research. Feel free to give this a read through and see what you like in order to figure out what direction you want to go with. So at this stage, we're waiting for the final stage of the first contact to happen. We've got a bunch of technology coming out. Administrative AI, excellent technology. Always make sure you get it. And we should be making first contact very soon. And there it is. A military junta, and they are egalitarian, militarist, and materialist, which is probably why the spiritualists next door do not like them too much. Now, the big problem that we have here right now is that we can make friends with them using one of our envoys, which is fine. The big thing is we want to avoid trying to get any agreements with them. So what we generally have here right now is that we don't want to do too many things that will annoy our neighbors. And if we go into this thing overview over here, we can see that our neighbors like us for now, but we need to keep an eye on things. But they currently have closed their borders to the other guys that we just found. So yeah, we need to be really careful about what we're doing there. In the meantime, mining outpost bonuses, always good. In our particular case, we definitely want to get farming subsidies, if at all possible. And in general, I think we can do some more expansion over here because we once again have enough influence. We are a little bit over our empire sprawl, so we need to be a little bit careful in selecting the systems that we want pretty carefully here. But I think overall we're in a pretty good spot and we don't need to do too much expansion anymore. Now we can try to offset this empire sprawl with a variety of ways. But in this particular case, what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to build some robot assembly labs on these particular planets so that we can get more population growth slowly but steadily. And also another cool name is going to be a different type of world. Whilst it is not necessarily the best agri-world in the world, we are going to set it as such because we kind of want that to get that up and running. As well as cool name is doing pretty well too. So We built this city district. We're going to slap down yet another research lab there, which is great for us. But as you will see very soon is that we will have 2 jobs available, which is going to be problematic because we will have those some people moving away from worker jobs over towards the specialist jobs, is where the scientists work. But in general, that's something that we can deal with very, very efficiently once our research lab is up and running. So all of our planets are nicely expanding. We have no jobs available on these worlds. There is 1 available job over here, which is why what we're doing right now is not the best thing to do in the world, but it's still a nice thing to have. It's always a good idea to take a look at the planetary features to see whether or not there's anything cool on here. No, it's just some hot springs and stuff like that. And to give you that example from before, the roboticists are here right now, but we don't have any metallurgists, which means that no many alloys are going to be generated on this world. And the same story over here. We got that 1 job open, so we shouldn't be building anything extra on this planet. So, now that we know our boundaries and what we are at, we can start doing all of these anomalies that we've been ignoring in the meantime. There's a bunch of good anomalies nearby that will allow us to do some pretty cool things, especially with the precursors, and the precursors themselves are pretty cool. And essentially, the precursors is a special chain that allows us to unlock things. In this particular case, we have the first leak, which can give us access to a very special world, which is really nice. But in the meantime, it looks like we're pretty much blocked in, and that means that we're going to be running into potential problems there. Now, as you can see, this empire, was it the Avarian Mandate? No, it was the Yttrian Interstellar Coalition, has just declared Avarian Mandate as a rival, which means that they don't like each other at all, which means that we're not going to mosey up to either of them too much. And as you can see, our spies have now seen that these guys are overwhelming to us. Sadly, we don't have any spies available to go towards this place, but we should be fine for now. So now we can get this system up and running. There are some special resources over here. Who wants to have this one? A defensive pact. We're not going to go for a defensive pact here, because we definitely do not want to be on the wrong end of the stick over there. And we're going to start reinforcing our station over here by adding a trade hub and a missile battery, as well as a resource silo. We can get some more minerals, always good. And our construction ship is on standby. Good. So what we're waiting on at this moment in time is terraforming technology, because there are several worlds within our space that will allow us to do terraforming. 2 of them, actually. There's this size 20 arid world and this size 14 alpine worlds, which have a lot of potential. Once again, not a lot of food, but it's something that we can work with. Migration agreement, always make sure you get these because it allows your population to grow even more. And at this stage, it's a case of, okay, what do I want to do next? Well, we have these 2 jobs available, and they are currently in the miner area. Do we need miners? Yes, we do. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and prioritize these miners while also clicking this button to decrease job priority on the clerks. Clerks overall are not all that important. They do generate amenities as well as trade value. Basically, it's value that gets translated into credits, and amenities that makes pops happy. You always want to make sure that this is in the green. But overall, they are the worst pops within the game, and you do not always necessarily need them. So instead, what is usually a good idea is to make sure that we have the researchers slot filled up. And once that is done, we can start to reactivate this and have our jobs grown once again. But basically, it means that our research labs are up and running, and all of our other jobs are nice and balanced once more. Oh, the Avarian Mandate wants to vassalize us. We are not going to do that. Instead, what we are going to do, we're going to our ships over here. We're going to hit autocomplete, then save, and we are going to go and click on our military fleet. As you can see, there's this little arrow next to it. And we're going to go ahead and just upgrade those. Remember those alloys that we spent in the early game by downgrading these ships and then using them to build something else? Yeah, we're going to go and build those ships back up. so that we actually have some firepower in case these guys are not too happy with us. But then again, they've just declared our independence as well, which is rather nice. Got a couple more science ships over here. We got an alien mural. We're just going to science the hell out of that as well. And that is essentially another 10 years of gameplay. We set up our colonies. We've defined them. We have essentially given them designations, this industrial world, as well as this agri-world, even though this is not exactly the optimal agri-world, but you should always have an agri-world as well as an industrial world as part of your first worlds. And on top of that, our home system is doing a lot of stuff with research. In addition, we've really solidified our area in space. We set up a couple of defensive structures, which is incredibly useful. We've made first contact with some very religious friends, and then some guys to the south that we don't know a lot about, which is a little bit unfortunate. So what we're actually going to do right here is we're actually going to build a spy network here on these guys, so we actually know what is going on there. They're wary of us, not the end of the world. They're not our rival, and we have still access to their territory, which is fine. But at least we're making friends with as many potential enemies as possible. Whilst at the same time going through the tech tree, trying to get as much technology up and running. It's usually a good idea to go for the cheaper stuff first. Actually, in this particular case, we want to go for adaptive democracy, bureaucracy. And there is only one last thing to do before we wrap up this tutorial, and that is take a look at our influence and go for research subsidies. Because we have all of these factions giving us a lot of influence, it basically means that we have a lot of spare influence, and we can spend these on these edicts. And in this particular case, it's usually a good idea to go for research subsidies because it will give us more research over time. They will be a little bit more expensive for all of our researchers, and it will have a bit of a knock-on effect on our economy as soon as the month ticks over, because that's when the expenditure comes out, but it only costs us an additional 5 energy a month to run that, which is fine. We're also going to enable recycling campaigns. These are campaigns that are timed, and we can also potentially do education campaign, but I'm not a big fan of that. As you can see as well, the cost is now no longer 1,000, but 1,070. It's because we are 7 points over our empire sprawl. So these all have knock-on effects that you need to keep an eye on, which is why we want to improve our bureaucratic setup. In the meantime, though, I hope you've learned something from this video today about those early steps, about colonizing planets, setting designations, getting into first contact, trying to figure out where you are and adapting to the situation. In this particular case, we don't have a lot of food, which means that we can do some very focused designations on our planet and focus on food technology rather than, say, minerals, which is something that we already have a lot of. In addition, we set up a spy network. We've tried to get a couple of treaties going with our neighbors, which worked just fine. We took a look at the economy. There's so much stuff going on in Stellaris all the time. It will really keep you on your toes with all your science ships flying about, making sure that you've gotten an eye on all of your systems. I should probably use this button. Oh boy, now it's disabled. That is very nice. And essentially get a good idea of what you should do, where, when, and when. When should you expend your influence? How should you deal with factions? Who should you prioritize on your worlds? And that sort of thing. So, we're going to go and wrap it up here. If you liked this video, feel free to give it a like. And if you are brand new here and you're trying to learn more about Stellaris or sci-fi games in general, feel free to follow the channel as well by using the subscribe button. You're very welcome to join us on this journey into the wild galaxy. Thank you as well to my patrons for making this video possible. We're going to go and wrap it up here. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take good care of yourselves and keep an eye on these here Xeno neighbors.